Here's Michael's work, and I put the week 5 example there at the same scale next to the new work, and we can see how he's managed proportions to advantage. The way he's handled the medium in his final project is akin to a limited palette with pastel, so that's a little different from, well, what's customarily referred to as a charcoal drawing heightened with white. That's what the assignment was asking for, but this result is very nice. Now, let's see. The legs seem very viable, and there's been extra emphasis put on the hands and feet. And while the hands might seem to be a little overemphasized, I think that's expressive. I'm enjoying the results. I wish there was some sort of chair or even just darkness to suggest the presence of a piece of furniture that you're sitting on, because I don't think you could hold that pose without the chair. Well, here's Sharon's work, and I've added her preparatory drawing from week 5 there as well, and we can see she's used very different poses. I'm interested in her final project, particularly with regard to the pose. And for instance, and there are nice moments like the feet. The feet seem very small, almost so small that they don't look like they could support the figure, but I like the way that that's pushing them back in space. She regards us directly. She's looking at us as we regard the image. The hair tossed over the shoulder is a nice effect as well. This is a competent drawing. Here's a very compelling work by Diana. Look at the face. There has been an emphasis placed here on portraiture, and we can't help but just admire this work. The use of white has come across well, I think, particularly with the face and the hair. And I noticed that some classmates had remarked upon the success with the hair, which is considerable. One thing that occurs to me with some of these is it sure would be nice to have a cast shadow on the floor. That is going to just suggest the floor plane and make the figure seem viable, a figure that's casting a shadow. One other little thing I want you to look at, Diana, is the lower arm. I want you to notice how it looks different when it rotates from the side to the top view. There's going to be some variation there. So here's Ellen's work, and I really am enjoying how the figure is positioned in an environment. All the scribbling that goes into creating a slightly darker backdrop behind the figure is enlivening this drawing. This is a very lively image. We believe that the figure is breathing, made of muscle. It's very compelling. Now, there's been some discussion about the size of the legs, and I think that Ellen picked up on something I mentioned to someone else in class, which is that if the knees are forward, if the lower leg is forward, it can look larger. And she's exaggerated that a touch here, which is good. The effect is good. Look at the petite hand in relation to the size of the foot. Exaggeration is important in 2D art because it is static. And the only thing I would change here is I'd take a look at the lower leg on the right side in relation to the foot that belongs to it. There might be a little adjustment that could be made there. So here's Aaron's work, and it seems he worked on tinted paper, but perhaps he didn't get to use the white. The more I look at this post, the more I'm enjoying it. It's been realized to a greater degree in the final project. I like the way the two arms are parallel and how the hands are grasping the shin. Kind of the opposite of what Ellen did. We see a foot there in the foreground, the foot on the knee, as being diminished in size. I'm wondering if a little more study could be done concerning what goes on with the thigh on the leg far away, and also the far away shoulder. Like, how do we get from the near shoulder to the far shoulder? Should we see clavicles there? Should we see a hint of an armpit? Now, in Mike's, we see a figure that's turning. I like that suggestion of movement. Also, if we look to his three-quarter view portrait. That's done admirably. That's done very nicely. Because the upper body is emphasized, I feel as though we're kind of looking down from above, and that gives a rationale for the lower body looking smallish. I so enjoyed reading the second discussion for week 6. There's so much enthusiasm among you, and it seems as though you're intent, all of you, to draw more from the figure. And we can see here, Sarah, she's got some very competent drawings, her work from week 5 and then the week 6 final project. But I feel like the final project is incomplete, and there's not too much further to go to round this out and make it into a portfolio piece. We need to see feet, as far as I can understand from this photo. And in another note to Sarah, I suggested taking a photo out of doors on a bright but slightly overcast day. That's where you'll get your best results. And digital photography need not be a mystery. It should be a tool that you can use as a designer and an artist. I have to say, this is a beautiful rendition of the blouse and the lower head. I'll note the assignment was asking for the entire figure, but this is close to it. Well, it's really been great having you in class, Ryan, because you're a player, you give us plenty of drawings and a sort of narrative about how those are progressing, and we can see your struggles, and people who may be struggling on their own, feel encouraged to know that classmates are meeting with the same sorts of issues. I noticed that you've made a plan for revising your week 5 preparatory drawing for week 6, and I like to see that. The final project is quite good. I think you're hampered a little bit by this extravagant pose, and I remember you said you danced around a bit trying to decide about what would be a suitably interesting pose, and well, I guess I feel as though you could be looking and drawing and posing at the same time for greater understanding of where to place shadows and how to articulate the musculature. But this is good work, and I'm glad to be so apprised of your progress. So Olivia explained that she posed in a manner as if she were practicing for a dance she's performing with a church group. And looking at this, isn't there a quality of the spiritual? Look at the way that the light is coming down from above. She turns her head to the light and her upper body is illuminated. It's really lovely. Additionally, we saw there was an exclamation about girls' boxer briefs, and on another hand, I consider that this could be an underwear ad or something. But it's a really beautiful pose. I like the way that presumably a chamois has been used to create an atmosphere and an environment in which the figure can move. Look at the beautifully rendered feet. I'm really admiring that left leg. I'd like you to take a second look at the thigh on the leg on the right side in that pose. I think it's pretty close. In fact, I wouldn't change this drawing, but there's a little more you could understand there. So here we see Robert's drawings, both his preparatory one and the final. And look at the subtle change in pose. In both instances, he's chosen a pose that is entirely nude, but still has a sense of modesty about it. I like the newer pose even better because the vantage point is a little more realistic. It seems as though he might be looking straight across at himself, whereas the view for the other seems a little from above. But I like the complexity and the sophistication here. He mentioned that he intended to include the tattoos, and there they are. But at the same time, we have a lot of attention given to the profile view of the face, the front of the chest, and the way that the arm sits right there on the knee.